excellence. Oh my God. Oh my goodness.
This is phenomenal.
We're so happy that you all are here.
They're going to make an announcement up there to get everybody else from down.
Yeah, we got some more people coming in, but you know, we must start on time and end on time, so we want to thank you all for showing up and being here, being present. Brother Michael, Prince, I want you to go ahead and get things rolling, but I want to actually just say that the Greater Washington Urban League, once a month we get together here at Hush Harbor for Business Wisdom Wednesday. Business Wisdom Wednesday is an opportunity for the best of us who are entrepreneurs to meet the best customers, individuals who are conscious about how they spend their money, where they spend their money, and whom they spend their money with. We must be really clear that as consumers, we spend a lot of money, and we need to be spending money with us more than ever before. So,
but in the meantime, hello everybody. My name is His Royal Highness Prince Michael Jet. You all can call me Jet for today, but we'll get into the Royal Highness piece, I'm sure, a little bit later on. I'm the chairman of Yak Shack.
Keep going.
Yak Shack is a global think tank, grocery retail think tank. What that means is work with anchor grocery retailers to be able to help them with their purchase order programs. What does that mean? So a purchase order program is when you're going to make a spend on a commodity or a department for $1 billion annual spend or above. So what that looks like is if you're talking about deli, bakery, single-serve desserts, and we have some single-serve dessert suppliers here today. What is all encompasses with that whole single-serve dessert division or buying program coming to the market? How will the buyers be able to drive that and incentivize the directors and the divisions to be able to get on board with that planogramming and so many of those other sciences? And I'm so grateful to also be able to even have another retail ally and just giant Jasmine here with us today. And, you know, we'll dive into that. In this world, if grocery retail, it is very hard to navigate it. And it doesn't matter if you're Tyson's Foods or a first-time supplier. Every day in retail is super hard, okay? Oftentimes you'll hear that there's unfair advantages for small brands, and there are. But the industry of grocery retail is an unfair world. And today we're really going to dive into that, right? And to be able to negate that unfair world, right after George Floyd's death, guess what happened? You had all these accelerators pop up. Sure, there was accelerators before, but all of a sudden, your face mattered, your purchase mattered, and your brand mattered. So you had all these accelerators open up, which created pathways to on the shelf. Today, we'll be diving into the discovery. Did those pathways truly accelerate us, or did they hold us back? So with that, we'd like to introduce Mr. Furard Tate, who is the Executive Director for the Greater Washington Urban League Entrepreneurship Center. Go ahead.
Okay, wow. I thought you were going to start over there with these amazing people, but thank you. I'm Furard Tate with the Greater Washington Urban League. We started a program called By Our Hands, where we not only accelerated the business, but the person. We took a holistic approach to meeting our entrepreneurs where they were and guided them first personally through this process for entrepreneurship. Not only making sure that they had access to scaling their business and access to money, but access of growing the whole individual. And because of that, we got a chance to meet my brother here and accelerated businesses to not only where they are on the shelves, but they are still in existence. We have over 99% of our businesses that we started with the last 5 years are still with us because we believe in building community as we build our businesses.
Love that. That's huge. And also, so you have myself and Mr. Tate as a moderator. You also have Brandy. Brandy will be representing the cohort panel for ecosystem development and really helping us to understand what are those navigations and complications. You also have Jasmine. Jasmine is a retail expert, not just on the desk, but also with her own thriving brand servicing multiple anchor retailers. Also, you also have Mike. Mike is a brand owner and also ecosystem educator, where he helped youth understand how to be able to accelerate from all the way from their first design to accelerating on e-commerce. Super excited. We also have Miss Fields. Miss Fields, her deli bakery items, primarily her bakery, has been able to reach anchor grocery retail such as Giants as Giant. We're so excited to be able to have her. And then we also have Matthew with Hiatus Cheesecake. And Matthew services a couple anchor retailers and is navigating the world of food service also. Thank you for coming today.
Yeah, let's give them a hand. They found time to be here.
They did.
Yes, so let's dive in.
Absolutely. So we're going to jump right into it. Our first segment is deconstructing our accelerators, right? So I'm going to open it up with you, Furard, with the first question. And that first question is, one, what is a DE&I-based accelerator?
Well, that is it really depends on who literally developed the program. But a lot of times people develop the program for us without really getting us in their mindset, right? And so a lot of times they thought, well, if I give them some money, if I give them a purchase order, if I give them this, then that's all they really need. And unfortunately, that set a lot of people up for failure because there was a lot of misunderstanding of what truth is to be on a shelf and to be successful on that shelf. Mm-hmm. So I really, really want to give real more in-depth responses from our panel, because I've seen so many businesses think that they were ready, but when they really got to the plate to bat, mm-hmm. not only were they unprepared for the purchase order, they were unprepared with the roller coaster that came with the opportunity.
Absolutely.
And it wiped a lot of them out.
Absolutely. So with that, I'd like to first turn the mic to Jasmine. And Jasmine, I want to pose that same question. When you talk about an accelerator for
that mic is hot.
When you talk about an accelerator for grocery retail, what were some of those D&I, the point of those D&I based accelerators?
Sure. Okay. Hello. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Hey, how's it going? All right. So I'm Jasmine Hudson, Chief Merchant, co-founder of a brand called Black Paper Party. So we're not grocery, we're on the GM side, so general merchandise. This is one of our items you can find in Walmart. But we were a part of several different DEI programs. So the Amazon Black Business Accelerator, the Macy's Workshop. So Workshop at Macy's, we're the inaugural winner of their $100,000 grand prize. Also, yeah, give it up. Give it up. Yeah. And then LVMH's Black Ambition Prize that we had with Pharrell. So in terms of getting us ready for retail, one of the things that's really different about Black Paper Party, we actually all came from Walmart. So I was a Walmart merchant. So I could kind of see the writing on the wall with some of the ways that the programming was set up. And a couple of the things with it is, one, you're a really small business. And when you sign up for the accelerators, they want to load you with classes and coursework. So having to build your business and then stop and essentially go to school so that you can hopefully get this money, honestly, at the end of it all, was strenuous from a time perspective.
How many months are most of the accelerators? Because
oh my gosh, so 3 to 6, it depends. Yes. Yeah, it's really, really long. It's truly coursework. Now, the thing is, I really wish there was a way to test out of it or kind of accelerate the accelerator. Because coming from retail, a lot of what they were teaching me, I could teach. So I'm like, I really, no shade, I just need that check. If y'all could just give me the end game, yeah. I'd appreciate it. However, a lot of the information that they give is relevant if you don't have a background in retail at all. However, being set up for success once you actually get into retail, there's not a lot of, I would say, aftercare. So they get you through the program, they drop you off, you get that PO, and then it's just you and the buyer. And the buyer has way too big of a portfolio to handhold you through this whole process. Mm-hmm. So if you are EDI compliant, which is the way you kind of you get your POs and you fulfill your orders. All of those forms, there's like 8 different forms in order to actually fill in the PO to fill it. They don't teach you how to do that, right? And if you mess that up, chargeback, right?
That's right.
If you end with too much inventory, markdown, right? So if you also don't know how to go in and price your products correctly, between chargebacks, markdowns, buybacks, all these random fees in order to market your products on their website, you will actually bankrupt your company before you get started.
It happens so much.
Yeah. So, I mean, I could go on for days, but like those are some of the key pitfalls. A lot of the companies we started with through these programs, they're no longer with Amazon. They're no longer in Macy's. They're not in Walmart anymore. And a lot of them are actually out of business now. And a lot of us did get started in 2020. We turned 5 about 5 days ago. So, yeah.
No, thank you so much for that.
And this is a safe space. Hush Harbor was really developed so that we can be honest, all right? Because you're not going to hear this truth elsewhere. So please, you all, let's tell the truth. Let's get into this.
Yes, and Jasmine, I really want to call out to be able to say thank you for talking about how many businesses are no longer in business because they went through an accelerator. And what I mean by that is, it's not that the accelerator themselves took them out of business. It's that they believed that the purchase order was their saving grace. And the purchase order is generally actually what kills your business before it starts, right? When you start thinking about cost. So if you might think you know the cost on your product, but before you went to a Target and Walmart, did you really analyze, one, okay, I have this cost. Did you include your shipping? Do you know if you're going to be on FOB or not? But also, when you're on the shelf, at minimum, on average, you're going to have to be able to do promotional marketing. And I want to
dive. They don't do that for you?
Oh, no. And so let's talk about promotional marketing, okay? And promotional marketing is, so let's say you're in the store and you see something that's everyday price $2. When it's on sale for $1, you think, oh man, the grocery store is really loves us. But every time a customer checks that out, right? So if you get 100 checkouts for that, then guess what? The supplier actually gets an invoice for those 100 scans equal to the price. Generally, there's not generally shared. Sometimes it can be. But so that means you owe $1 back per scan. Doesn't sound too bad, right? But what about if you're in 150 stores?
Yes.
All of a sudden, guess what happens? And because you're on net payment terms, most of the time, that money is coming out of future cash that that you're owed. So you might have went ahead and said, "Oh man, I have case sales for $10,000," but now the check that you're getting after deductions and you did that promotional pricing
that they told you to do.
That they told you to do because you do need to do it, but you didn't prepare.
Yeah.
You don't even have funds to manufacture your next line.
Nope.
But guess what? You're actually part of their planogram, and if that means that now you're not on the shelf, now you can also get additional charges, right, for not being able to fulfill that shelf space. And then on top of that, if you had any deductions to be able to come off of it. So these are some of the reasons as towards what is acceleration.
Yes.
And a lot of times when we think about acceleration, the general small business owner thinks I'm getting accelerated onto the shelf. But you know what I generally call accelerators? They're accelerating you towards chaos.
So let's hear from some more panel.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so I would like to be able to move over to Matthew just on this part. Matthew, what was your biggest challenge?
And tell us the name of your business too, Matthew.
Sure.
Matthew, what was the biggest challenge that you had when you first won the accelerator?
He won?
Yes, and I want to dive into that on the next segment. We'll talk about that accelerator that you won, but if you can.
Gotcha. So my name is Matthew Featherstone, the founder of Hiatus Cheesecake, and I've won a few accelerators, but the particular one that Mike is talking about, it was a pretty big company, huge actually. So initially, when you think that, you win an accelerator, the bridge to get on the shelf, which is pretty much building your supply chain, they don't teach you that. And building a supply chain it's an entire supply chain. So you have to make sure that within the supply chain that everybody's making some type of money, and then that you still have some type of margin on that. And then it goes into a lot of areas. So even on the marketing side, when you're doing your pricing, if all of that, when you charge, has to be inside of your cost, you should already know that I'm going to have to market this. If my margin right now, if I'm profiting 30%, whenever I run marketing, I'm going to take a hit. I'm going to give 10% up. You should already know that, and that should be planned before you even give the distributor or give the retailer the price. You should know that already. So those are the little things they don't teach you that ends up hurting a lot of businesses.
Thank you for that. So, Ms. Fields, I would love for you to be able to tell me, when it comes towards D&I accelerators, one, about how many have you been through? What did you find beneficial, but what did you find that brought you fatigue?
So I'm Miss Fields, founder and CEO of Sweet Fields. We are a decadent gourmet cinnamon roll company. I have been through probably about 4 or 5 accelerators. One where I even had to move to a whole different part of the country for 6 months, which was really great because you get to really focus on your business. But some of the fatigue, as mentioned before, they're giving you a lot of classes. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of time. And it doesn't really speak to the core of what you are producing, right? They're all kind of industry agnostic. Nothing is focused specifically on what you're producing. They're not, like when you go into stores, you need to understand the sheets that you fill out, the multitudes of paperwork and all the acronyms that are on those documents. You need to understand your packaging, your weight, how to assess that, how to cost that out, how to run the analysis, how to speak to your manufacturer, what are normal terms, things of that nature. And nobody is talking about that. Nobody. Not a single solitary accelerator I've been through has talked about that. And I don't know if it's that they don't understand those things or that maybe they just don't think to tell you those things. I'm not really sure.
Throughout their accelerators, right?
Yes.
What was that one aha that saved you that knocked most people out? Because you weren't in class by yourself.
Yeah.
Yes.
If I'm being really honest.
Be honest. Like, we in Hush Harbor.
So, I know, right? So, honestly, the best, okay, 2 things. The best accelerator I went through was Stacy's Rise, because that was really for CPG founders. It's run by Pepsi. They get it. You get 2 mentors specifically for you and what you need, and you meet with them regularly. Phenomenal. I wish they were all do that. I learned so much. As far as the aha moment,
yes,
I don't know that I can give one large aha moment. Part of my success in launching in retail was because I got mentors. So maybe that was the aha moment.
mentors, yeah.
Getting mentors. And sometimes we don't know how to source those, right? We get shy, we get bashful, we get prideful. We don't want to just reach out. And sometimes people respond, sometimes they don't. But I could not have done it if I had not gotten on that internet, on IG, and reached out to people who were in frozen categories like myself. People who were doing it way 10 times larger and then maybe just a little bit larger, so that I can understand, what do these forms mean, what websites to go to, what to look for, what to be aware of, how to price myself.
Love that.
And I wish more accelerators were doing that.
Absolutely.
Well, he has so many people that he mentors. So I like you for saying that. Mentorship is underrated. And everyone here should at least have 3 mentors that's connected to. I know the Cheesecake Brothers, it's not just one. They probably called you every day. And that's important to be a part of that.
It is. It is. And in the next segment, we're really going to even really dive deep on to why that mentorship is so vital. So I love that you brought that out. because with, when Jasmine was talking, how she said you win the accelerator, then you're dropped off, but you really need those voices that can really speak towards your commodity, right? Commodity interest, commodity specific is very important. Now I have a question for Brandy. Brandy, so in the greater Houston area, being that you've worked with several EDCs, which are defined as economic development corporations, right? What's some of the biggest issues that EDCs had with, one, being able to start a successful accelerator, but also even find partners to make an accelerator make sense? Is that a fair question?
That's a great question.
Definitely. Can y'all hear me? Okay.
Yeah, bring it a little
So
closer.
I think there we go. Okay. I think you have a lot of times. I've been a mentor. I've been a mentor for Generator, for Founders Institute. I've been through Black Girls Ventures, and I've been through E4All. So I've been on both sides and invested. So a lot of times people have these titles, but they've never been through any entrepreneurship experience. They never, nothing, nothing to
So
where
she's proving it.
they
It's like
haven't
they
been
developed
in
these programs.
operations. They haven't, put in the sweat equity. They haven't been in any side. So it's like, it's all conceptual and theoretical. And they're like, yeah, we have them. I was like, you don't know what you're doing. And this is doing a disservice. And so that's why I kind of switched from, because for me at the time, I was like, I knew I need to pivot. And I knew for me, I wasn't ready. I wasn't retail ready. I knew it. I was very self-aware. And I said, and I can't do this at this time. I think I can add more value being on the mentor side, advising side, helping with funding. And since I've invested before, and even like with folks to help with the due diligence. So I think that's one thing. Like they think they have the skill set internally within these municipalities to educate people, but they don't. And I think even if there is some knowledge, they're not doing refreshers and upskilling to make sure they're staying relevant to what's needed. You mentioned George Floyd and stuff, and I was on a call with some angels and others, and they're like, yeah, take advantage of this guilt money while you can, because we don't know how long it's going to last.
Right.
And, and it was appropriate then. So I think those are two things. I think sustainability of funding, because a lot of times, like I led an initiative for a city outside of Houston, and they knew it's like, oh, okay, we're going to get this money over 5 years. We'll do this. I said, well, what after the 5 years? What y'all going to do? What about the people who went through this? What even for us as mentors, like everybody that's part of it in the ecosystem. That's why I talk about ecosystem building. Like, what about everybody that had some part to play afterwards? Like, you can't just look at, this will be good for us to put in our strategic plan or to help with this. I was like, it just 5 years goes by really fast. And then if you're doing conceptual through whatever stage, like the first 2-3 years can kind of be a wash because you really don't even know what's going to happen, if it's going to work. And the last 2 years, you're like, you may not even want to put the effort in because you don't know if you really be able to continue.
So, I think you really brought out a phenomenal point when you said that the educators and the facilitators of these programs, how much are they experts? And listen, it happens across America. It doesn't matter, across what demographic. A lot of times people, when you can't do, you teach.
Yeah.
Right? And a lot of times these accelerators, the logic sound great, right?
The logic model.
Right. The pathways sound great. But just because you can take somebody that was the director of merchandising for a particular department of grocery retail, that does not mean that they can actually do education within a certain portion of retail.
Yeah. They look good on paper.
Right. And so, like for instance, I was great with merchandising and with supply chain and marketing. I understood that. But and I also came from the world of technology. But when it actually came towards EDI, and when it came for regulatory and certifications, I knew that I couldn't teach the regulatory and the certifications. So it's also about making sure when you're assessing who are the right partners and growth partners, is what are they honest to tell you about what they can't teach you? That's one of the biggest things that I look for.
And no one tells you what they can't teach because everybody's so intelligent nowadays, right? But I love what you're just saying. At that 5-year mark, a lot of people realize, like you said, in that 2-year span, does this really work?
Yeah.
Because they can't tell you it's not really doing what they thought it was going to do, right? But what happens to that participant? Because I want to get to my brother. I know you're going to ask him that question. Because a lot of times that participant who moved to another city, who invested those long hours of working and going to class, a lot of them are looking at themselves, not really looking at within. They're looking at they still have to survive.
Correct.
And it's accelerated because everyone doesn't even get to the prize that's offered.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely. Right.
Yeah.
And, you know, and even with that said, the biggest piece is for people that have been through it, right, and people that even have found success, a lot of times it's actually hard for the people that really do know the system to be able to integrate with the right partners. So, Mike, I want to be able to talk to you about that, right? Because you service two sides. While you're your own brand owner, right, you actually go out into the universe and you educate people about that pathway, right? Young people, right? And adults too. But when you think about that, right, it seems like you should have 1,000 partners wanting to be able to work with you, right? But what does that look like for you with being able to have ecosystem partners, since you know your trade well, right? What is still the bottlenecks with gaining those ecosystem partners?
Did you put them in the middle on purpose?
Hello, everybody. Thank you for your time. Thank you for having me, you guys. My name is Michael Wilson. I run a company called My Way Live Media, and I do battle both sides of the fence. And one of the biggest takeaways for me is really understanding who is for you. To your point, a lot of times you do think you have to have so many of everything. I have to have so many dollars to have something happen. I have to have so many clients to make my business successful, etc. I have to have so many friends to be popular. Everything is connected. But to answer your question, I think alignment, synergy, and really what I boil down to as an expert is branding, right? Like finding that alignment within the branding and understanding how stories can really intersect, if not really walk a line together, really speaks deeply to who is meant to work with you, not just in the short term, but also as a long-term longevity partner too. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that fully answers your question.
No, absolutely it did, right? Yeah. So I want to be able to wrap up this particular segment with, now that we know that the funding is no longer there for DE&I, and a lot of this is going away, what now for you? So I'm going to ask each one of you that question, that what now? What is your current pathway, or what's next for you, being that being able to rely on, for good and bad, but rely that D&I pathways are possible. Now that that's fading into the background, what's next? And Jasmine? And I hope that was a fair question.
It is a very fair question because we're in that right now. So, like, for instance, Target did not give us a PO this year. We've been in Target for the past 3 years. We did well last year, and they said, we're going in a different strategic direction. $250,000 windfall out the gate. Not prepared for that, right? So, as a small business, you can't fall out of the sky $250,000 and think you're just going to survive, right? So, yeah, I know. Look at the faces. Yep, jaws drop, right? So, one of the things that we need to get smarter on is, as a company, and then potentially other businesses, we're over leveraged in retail, actually. Our direct-to-consumer line is not strong. Our website, frankly, sucks. Please still go on blackpaperparty.com and buy, because, you know, we need it, help. But we really do need help on, we have to get our direct-to-consumer segment stronger. And then also what we've been able to do to mitigate a lot of the risk is, yeah, we are vendor of record / the manufacturer for like Macy's and Family Dollar, but we actually have license programs with Walmart and Dollar General. Mm-hmm. So what licensing is, we're able to shell out our IP, our characters, our prints, and our patterns. There's another company that will pick, pack, ship, manufacture, design. They sell it to Walmart. They take on all of the margin risk, the inventory risk, the markdown risk, the buybacks, all of that. They manage that whole program. And on that PO, we get a percentage, which we call a royalty. So long as we can And that's 100%, you know what I mean, profit. We don't have any cogs associated with licensing. So
Love this.
building out our licensing program, getting stronger from a D2C perspective is how we're going to win at all of these DEI rollbacks.
Diversification.
Straight to consumer.
Right.
Straight to
Absolutely.
consumer. I hope y'all kind of getting this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Come on, let's get some more
Right.
truth. Yeah.
Please, Brandy.
Yeah.
So I'll speak actually from the funders spot. Before we started with this evening, I was just talking upstairs about how with a social impact organization I'm with, we received over $3 million for the MBDA grant for capital readiness, supplier readiness. Got cut. Money drilled down. We had people allocated. And so a lot of times we're not the fund of funders. It's like it's another entity above there, and you just see the money distributed one way. So we're looking at different things because the federal money ain't there. I'm in Texas, y'all. So y'all are, it's not, yeah, it's not. Between the redistricting and different things and stuff going on, it's a mess. So if there are some other state or like local initiatives, we look at that. I'm looking at a lot of private institutions and foundations. So for instance, when I've done cohorts actually as a municipality leader for National League of Cities, Kaufman Foundation and others would help support that. And so I would say, like, you know, they talk about follow the money, really find out where the money's actually sourced, because you think it's just who's cutting the check, but there might be a check cut to them. And then
Yes.
we're looking to, because some of the different financial institutions and even community development financial institutions, CDFIs, they can help do microloans like $100K and under, just for different things, whether it be equipment and, you know, or different things to where, you know, we can't get traditional funding from a bank or it's just too crazy. So we're looking at those institutions and actually working to become our own CDFI. And then also some of the even venture capitalists or just bigger banks and entities, they're doing municipality funding. So if that area based off of population, demographics, all that stuff meet the criteria, those cities and entities can get funding. So we're dealing with the same thing as those like that are actually have their stuff in the retail stores.
No, you know, that was very helpful. Anybody else want to be able to answer for that? Go ahead, Matthew.
Yeah, let's go right around. Let's go right around. Yeah.
So definitely heavy on the diversification. With us, I mean, if you just break it down and you know where your revenue percentages lie, that'll kind of protect your business. So like we are both food service and retail. So we work along with like, we're in the process of working with a vendor for luxury hotels. We were just on a food show, an airline food show. So we have interest from Delta, United Airlines. That's all food service side. Retail, we have Kroger, Whole Foods Markets, Piggly Wiggly's interested, Hy-Vee. We have plenty of, you just got to diversify as much as you can. You don't want to have it, you know, 50% of my business is with one retailer and then they fall out and you messed up. On the funding side, one benefit that we have gotten out of all of the different cohorts is we have a very rock solid pitch deck. And that pitch deck has been changing to all the different types of pitch, from investor pitch deck to product pitch deck. So now our pitch deck's really, really strong, and we've just got our first 2 investors. We have about another 3 that are interested in investing. So that's how we're funding it. What's very important that I would say if you are going the investor route is the way that your cash flow looks. It should be on the positive side, and they should be able to clearly see that their investment is going to have an ROI. They shouldn't be curious at all. That you shouldn't look nervous. You know, if you have that written out, then they will invest.
Absolutely, Jack.
Right around.
Actually, to piggyback on what Matt was saying, and that's something I was going to talk about, is your revenue versus what you're netting. Like, how profitable are you? A lot of times people look at, oh, we made, you know, $1 million or 500,000 or, you know, 2 million or whatever, but what did you net? What did you like clear? What did you take home clear? Mm-hmm. And that is huge when it comes time to looking for funding or investors, you know, however you're going to get funded,
when it
right?
comes to the truth.
Right.
What did you bring home?
Right. What did you bring home? And I think that sometimes people forget that when they're creating their products and coming up with their ideas. They're not really looking at what they're really taking home free and clear, you know. They're like, oh, I'll agree to pay Paul. When the next one comes in, I'll pay that. And then it's like this rolling game. And it's like, no, you got to really create. Ooh, you really got to create a profitable business. And so for us, we're diversifying as well because retail was stressful. Oh Lord, it was stressful. It's expensive, and I was like, you know what? Private label is kind of the direction we're going, and food service, and focusing just highly on being profitable and keeping our margins as beautiful as possible. And with that, when you really stop getting fearful around that, you're not so keen to pick up every little thing that comes your way.
Yeah, because everything's not for you.
Everything's not for you. You got to really look at that and be willing to say, you know what, that's not a good deal for us.
Amen.
And push it off the table. So that's what we're doing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And Michael?
Yeah.
Oh man, I'll try to not be.
So Michael, what now, right?
Yeah.
What does that look like?
I'll try to not be long-winded because we had some amazing responses. But one thing that I find to be both the common denominator and the difference is how we assess data, especially direct-to-consumer. To Jasmine's point, we have very little leverage with that market space of how do I actually engage my own consumer. It's amazing to be in retailers. Like I've worked with brands that are also in shelves of high-level retailers, and as soon as those deals maybe fall through or there's not as much traction, to your point, there's a huge gap in revenue, and there's a huge even lack of motivation. Like you guys have no idea how demotivating that can be.
Yeah.
And again, to keep this short-winded, one of the biggest things that we can be paying attention to is data, and not just in our revenue, but in our operations, in our marketing, and along all of those facets. If we're tracking and really appropriately applying the data that we find, all of those risks and fears start to fall away.
Now, my question is to all of you, right? You said it, sister. A lot of times we were so consumed about getting on that shelf that a lot of times we forgot our customer. We're our real customer, and we thought our customer would come through someone else's doors. The Greater Washington Urban League has an initiative called Show Us What You Love. And we are letting our customers tell us we love you through their own posts. Why is it so important as we're going into this new economy to double down in data, but capturing the data about our consumers so we are sharing that relationship? Show us what you love.
I got that.
Okay, and then I want to hear you all, because that customer engagement strategy is so important as we move forward.
And hopefully we can touch on that on the next segment, because I want to be mindful of our segment time. So if you can, I would love to be able to even quickly answer that part of the question.
Okay.
Right. So, and combined with understanding your margins, everything that everybody just said has everything to do with data, but it's really about how are you capturing that data. There's a couple key points to be able to know. For instance, everybody that said the pivot that they was able to make is because they understood who their stakeholder and their customer was, and really separating that data. That what's the data that's important for me to be able to know that the data is coming from the stakeholder. What am I looking for? For instance, you can know that you can license because you know that there's a market share for that. So one, for your particular item, do you even understand what your market share is within the commodity that you own? Because if you think you have a great product, but if you have a 2% market share, if you're licensing it out, you could actually be pitching to the person that has the 98% market share to come in and actually do those licensing deals, because they can come in at better margins for their person. So it's about being very strategic to be able to know where you're placed, why people love your brand, and when it's missed, right? Retailers might circle back, but even if they don't circle the block, how are you still protected? Because you still have a village that is championed for your product to live in the market. And what I mean by that is it means your product, it doesn't, I'm not always focused on people's brand living in the market as I am people's product living in the market, because you can go brand it, you can be licensed with, have like collaborations, or you can do white label. But how do you plan to live in the market? So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to land this plane, but we're going to come back because,
we'll come back
again,
to that.
we have to stop letting someone else be the doorkeeper to our brands. Our community is out there, and Show Us What You Love is a way for us to honor them and say thank you, because that love goes back and forth. I'm producing a product for a consumer, right?
Mhm.
And that consumer has to know why I am doing this, and that love story goes back and forth.
And and I can't wait for us to talk about that, because all that is about foot traffic.
Yeah.
It is about campaign awareness.
Got it.
So we're going to really talk about that campaign awareness in the next segment, which is why I want to talk about that piece.
Here it is.
Because it's all about, how are you telling that story to make your consumer or stakeholder fall in love. All right, so we're going to go ahead and take a 10-minute break, and we'll be back.
The bar is open.
Thank you, guys.
And the food is there. Please get some food.
Ask us those key questions. I'm going to first go back and give everybody a refresher, right? So myself, Prince Michael Jett, all things grocery retail. Really, the commodity really doesn't matter, but I understand how to integrate both the product and service-based businesses to satisfy a purchase order and then be able to help the product scan on the shelf. I mentor both retail executives and the suppliers, so I understand the business lens and then the supplier lens as well. And then you also have Michael Wilson. Michael Wilson, you give them a refresher again, and as well as Miss Fields and Hiatus Cheesecake.
Thank you, guys. My name is Michael Wilson. I run an organization called My Way Live Media, and I am a subject matter expert in branding and data.
I'm Miss Fields, founder and CEO of Sweet Fields, a decadent gourmet vegan cinnamon roll company. And that's about it.
She's so modest.
Yeah.
I am Matthew Featherstone, founder and CEO of Hiatus Cheesecakes.
Yeah, you can bring that mic closer to you. And we don't have a mic for you out here, but we do want you to know you can just stand up and come a little closer. I'm Furard Tate, the Executive Director of the Greater Washington Urban League Entrepreneurship Center. So we're going to share that mic there, and and then me and you. Well, is this one better? This one better?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to pull this one out. Because we want you to ask questions, okay?
And these questions can be related whether you're actually currently navigating retail or if you selfishly as a consumer just have any questions about the brands that you're seeing in the market. Please feel free to be able to answer.
Let's get it started. So, one of my questions was, one of my questions to you all. Well, what is your customer engagement strategy? How do you find that customer that you know is in line with your brand and just loves your product also?
Well, for me, I spend a lot of time in festivals and farmers markets. So I really got to really touch physically the customers that love my product. Ask them why, what appeals to them most, what's most important, things of that nature. And so through that process, I've been able to kind of target through, social media and so on and such forth to make sure that I'm talking to the moms and to, within their age range and with families and so on and such forth, or people who are vegan or have dietary restrictions. And so that's how I've been able to identify who my consumer is and who to cater my messaging to.
Great, thank you.
So when I first started, I started in food service, so I was selling to restaurants. The restaurant that I was working at happened to be on the fine dining side. I'm not sure if you all have heard of Grace's Mandarin, but that's where I started. With that, since I've had a background and I've been in the restaurant industry for 18 years, I knew that was the customer that I was going to be going after. So then the customer diversifies depending on if you're selling to wholesale or if you're selling to food service. But at the end of the day, when you are selling wholesale, the end customer or whoever they're selling to is your customer. So you have to kind of keep that in mind to when you're making your strategy. So, for example, that kind of will help you figure out exactly who you're supposed to sell to. For example, I would not sell to Walmart. Reason being is because it's too much competition. You know, if with Walmart's customer, they're price sensitive. So if it's a cheesecake that's sitting there that's $2 and mine's is $6, they're going to win. It's too much competition for me, so that's not my customer. So when you're doing your customer strategy, regardless if it's retail or even if you go on the food service side, I wouldn't sell to a cafeteria where people are just expecting a cheesecake to be $1. I wouldn't do that. Now I would be in a luxury hotel as a gift, you know, when you check into your hotel. That's kind of how you can figure out exactly where to sell. So it's important.
Great. And you? Yeah. Let's move with that mic.
So I actually really love this question.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so I actually really love this question. When it comes to finding the right customers or your customers, I think everything in life is connected. One thing that you guys should know about me, I actually have a background in psychology. So before business, I'm actually a psychologist, and I specialize in psychology of the workplace. So everything is connected. And if you think about business like friendship, you really want to focus on the people that are engaging with you in a very organic and natural way, and not people that you have to kind of ask to be your friend, if you get the analogy. And so from that lens, authenticity is really important. Understanding who you are and who your brand is very, very, very important, because if you kind of misrepresent who you are or your brand is, you're kind of inviting the wrong customers or the wrong clients to your business, and then that's not as sustainable. So when it comes to finding the right clients and sustainability of your business, I think one thing I've even learned personally from your mentorship is the value of honesty.
Wow.
And honesty in business is something that is highly overlooked, because a lot of people, I won't project, I viewed honesty as something that wasn't truly applicable to business. Like if I'm lying to you, that's a personal thing. And so there's a lot of ways in which we can lie to ourselves in business, to our clients, to our team, to our employees. And it's not necessarily malicious, but it is out of preservation of our ego. And when we kill our ego, I think we start to see success on both sides of the fields, from suppliers and retailers.
Wow.
If I can.
Go ahead.
So, no, thank you very much for that. So I really want to actually talk on that piece. So whenever you can go through as many accelerators, or you can get as many mentors and everything as you want to, but as Mike said, so Mike went through my mentorship and road mapping program, right, that I offered. So Mike, if I could ask you, how hard was it actually discovering your truth in business? Right? What did it mean?
Identity,
right?
Unpack that.
Y'all see me laughing.
So, you know, when you talk about your truth in business, is not saying that, you know, take away the imposter syndrome, take away where you know you're great, but making the truth your own.
Yeah.
What was that process, and how was that possible?
Look, sister's like, go ahead.
Yeah, this is major. No, this is actually bigger than most people realize, that question. Making the truth your own is essential to your life, like not just your business. And that process was beyond difficult. I am someone who has always strived to be an honest man, a fair man, a reasonable man, a kind man. And so to even think about myself as anything other than honest was very hard to grip. And in my mentorship, I was able to see not just how lying to others can be impactful, right? Because I already understood that. But what I truthfully really learned and took away the most is, again, how our lies to ourselves allows us to lie to other people. Because if I can lie to myself, I have to lie to you to protect what I told myself. And so what you start to realize is that you're not actually lying to other people, or at least with a malicious intent, as I mentioned, but you're really just preserving your own ego, and that deviates you from reality, deviates you from success, deviates you from everything that you might find holy. So yeah, it is, to answer your question, it is a very, very difficult thing to focus on how you could be flawed and how vulnerably everybody might see you in a spotlight like this, and you have to say how you're imperfect or how you might have lied in the past. It's very difficult.
Stay on brand is real, right?
Stay on brand.
Then you're honest with yourself. It becomes a part of your life.
Yes.
That I have to always change. I hope y'all got some questions, right? Because my sister right here, how many customers at those farmers markets ask you, can you change this? Can you put a little bit of this in there? Can you do a little bit of that? And then with this mic is hot, we want y'all to come ask some questions.
So I'm cinnamon rolls, right? And most people think of a regular flat white cinnamon roll, your classic go to Cinnabon, right? But we have over like 20 different flavors, different dough bases, red velvet, chocolate, sweet potato, lemon, blueberry, all kind of fun stuff, right?
That's right.
So,
yes, I'm hungry.
right.
She got them in her pocket.
I'm like, where they at?
Right. So, farmers markets, at first it was, you gonna get what I give you, right? Like, we're gonna set up a certain amount of pralines and cream, a certain amount of traditional, a certain amount of caramel chocolate walnut. We're gonna set those up, right? And when it's sold out, sold out. But then what I also found was that customize it, right? And so we started putting the toppings on the side, and people can customize it their way. And that didn't bother me, right? Because my thing is, I want you to enjoy your experience. Sweet Fields is simply that. It is an experience. It's a luxury experience. And I'm going to charge you one price. And whatever toppings you want on it, it's all for you. And that seemed to really resonate with people. If they only wanted a little bit of icing, they got a little bit of icing. If they wanted a whole glob on it with a lot of, caramel and the walnuts and the things, then that's it. Then that's what they got. And so people would come to me knowing that Sweet Fields was synonymous with a decadent experience, a luxury experience, and it's going to be a catered, customized for you experience. And so
that's your brand.
That's my brand. Yeah.
So if I just want to tag on to that piece real quick, right? And and I want to talk about what you just said, right? That's about making the truth your own. You was willing to be able to make a pivot, not based on the fact that this is my company. I made it come out the oven like this. My success, and I got it. Yeah, right. I got it a giant because I had this much icing or this. You was literally able to humble yourself and say, I have a product that's for the market, but let the market tell me how they want my product to live. There is no ego in retail. There is no ego in retail. If you get too many consumers that's telling you it's too salty, don't just say, well, that's the wrong base. You need to listen to that, right? Or go out of business, right? So I want to thank you for that intentionality, because I think you just preached to so many people about that piece, right? So thank you so much.
Have a question? Come on. Anybody? Yeah.
I wanted to kind of jump on a little bit on that point. Just asking, how did you How did you maintain your brand identity through the accelerator programs, through the retail? How many questions were asked of like how you should change, and how did you push back and were able to maintain your identity that you created, that you love so much?
So,
Good question.
there were some changes. Sweet Fields did not start out as a vegan product. It was all the dairy and eggs and things. But within that first 6 months, I'm originally from San Diego, California, so that's where we were born. And I did 2 festivals coming out the gate. And I started getting requests around, do you have anything that's vegan? I was like, oh, I don't really have. And by the second festival, a lady said she owned this big shop in San Diego called the World Beat Center. And she goes, if you can create me a vegan cinnamon roll, I'll put you in my shop. So I gave her 2. So I gave her coconut cream and banana nut. And
Good.
now you stressed. So then during the pandemic, I started adding options. Well, now online when people will order, if you want a vegan, I can figure out, I can make it vegan. Okay, that was well received. Then I did an accelerator attached to a pitch competition. And some of my feedback was this lady goes, she was vegan, and she goes, you need to decide. Are you vegan or you're not? And I was like, well, I don't want to exclude. Why would I? She goes, try this. Make them all vegan. See what response you get. I said, okay. So I just quietly changed them all.
Come on.
And nobody noticed.
Come on.
Nobody noticed. Then I did another accelerator, and they were like, I think you need to push that. Because I was still kind of hiding it. They were all vegan, but I wasn't in my truth, right? I wasn't owning that they were vegan, right? Because I was like, oh, that's a stigma.
Yeah.
Which it still is, especially with our people. And he's like, nah, you need to push that. So I started pushing it. But a lot of us are lactose intolerant. We don't need all that dairy. And I would find sometimes even if I was a little quiet, I would put it on the label, like the little nutrition label. Those who were looking for it, they'd be like, "Oh my God, it's vegan!" And I was like, "Oh, there's a lot of people really looking for it."
Come on.
So those are some of the evolutions of Sweetfield. So we own it now. We're vegan and we're proud and we're decadent and we're proud
and
because you can't tell. You cannot tell.
And that's identified as you went through your product life cycle.
Yeah.
Right? It is important. There is no good brand identity without knowing your product life cycle. If you don't want to do your product life cycle, that means you're arrogant, you're stubborn, and unwilling to grow with the market. It's not. Yeah, right. Right. Because you know what? If you're not growing with the market, you need to be doing your product life cycle. I don't care how successful and you're selling out. You always supposed to be doing product life cycle and to be able to see what that next cycle looks like, even if it stays the same.
Did he say data?
Right.
Data. I was trying to say
product life cycle and data is somewhat similar.
No, so similar.
But product life cycle, even let's say if you even don't have data.
Okay.
Right.
But you want data nowadays.
Yes. But real data costs a lot of money. Right. So I don't want everybody to get caught up on data because data can also lie to you too if you don't have the right data. But your product life cycle is going to literally just take you in to be able to say, according towards even the market, how much did you save being that you were no longer having milk, right? And no eggs. That product life cycle, right? And now look at the economy. She can win where other brands might not be winning anymore because even the cost of her product. So product life cycle was able to retain more of a margin. But okay, I apologize.
You speaking right to me.
Okay,
I
go
do
ahead.
vegan and gluten-free cakes too.
Okay. So please go ahead.
I don't, but I will.
But you will. There you go.
So hi everybody, my name is Shy from Butter Queen Catering and Bakery. So we focus on 15% less sugar in our pound cakes. We do higher protein in our meal preps, things of that nature.
Nice.
My question is kind of similar to Vishnu, but from a different perspective. We were talking a lot about diversification, like the retail. You were talking about airlines, things of that nature. How do you stay true to what you originally wanted your product to be when those different people are like, oh, can you maybe do this as a 6 count? Can you make this 4 ounces instead of 5? And can you add that? Like, how do you?
So I think the SOPs, first of all, like right now I'm at a point where I'm bringing on co-packers and I'm starting to have them produce the product. But as long as you have your how everything is supposed to be, and then you have to do your checks. I literally just came from Missouri and I sat there and watched them bake everything and gave my notes. That's how you kind of manage that. I would advise, as I was advised, you might not be able to do it on every production run, but on your first year at least, every time you have a PO and you have to purchase with a co-packer, if you're not producing it, you go there and you make sure it's right. That's how you do that.
How do you establish that relationship?
So those relationships were established from other relationships. I heard something recently that said your environment is your net worth. So if you create the environment around you, that same thing can be saying your environment is your business. You bring people around you that already have done. We have a whole advisory board now and mentors, and these people have sold hundreds of millions of product already, and they already know how all of it works. And it's just if I have something that I don't know what to do, I can just say, "Hey, what's up? How do you do it?" That's honestly how you do. You build your network.
I'm glad you said that. So often we think.
Yeah. If I just real quick for her question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Real quick, because I want to circle back to a piece that you mentioned, right? Because it could be as simple as Target telling you that the color of your branding needs to be this, or your packaging should be this, right? It could be as simple as the dimensions that they want your product to live on the shelf. So if I really heard your question, also it is, well, what does that look like? So instead of when you're thinking about Target, Walmart, and Kroger, I want you to then go, okay, well, all of those are generally the same as far as how they want me to live on the shelf, but then separate from, I'm willing to have a different discussion if I'm going to be big box, right? So what that means is, if you're going to be in Costco or Sam's, well, I'm willing to change my packaging or the way my packaging looks for this type of relationship, because this is a bulk buy that's going to relieve pressure in another area. But every retailer is going to tell you something different. But it's also important to, guess what? I don't want anybody to directly communicate with their buyer. I want you to go through a broker, right? Because your broker is also going to have that data analytics to be able to let you know, yeah, they're saying this for this branding, but that's because if you're in this font, guess what's going to happen? You're going to get an average of this much more sales. But every buyer has an idea, but that buyer is not an analyst. That buyer comes and goes in the market, and they just know what they like, but I promise you, they don't know the market at all. It is your broker that knows your market, not your buyer.
Those relationships, those relationships are important. And I see your face. You were like, she went like, ooh, right. And that's why they didn't do this overnight. It starts with one having having the desire. You have a product, right? And at places like this, Business Wisdom Wednesdays, Hus Harbor, you meet these individuals. And those relationships, like he just said, he guides you through. That guy saves you in so many ways. A lot of people who don't listen wind up broken. Because it's not just your money that disappears by making the wrong decisions, by not doing it right. It's also the emotion that comes with you trying to be something that you know you can be. And that's a successful entrepreneur. Go ahead, brother.
It's piggybacking off what both of them were saying. It's knowing what the engagement looks like, right?
Yeah.
So if you're engaging with an airline that's going to require you to get a larger case count, you know that's going to take about 6 months to a year. You don't want to wait till you get and then all of a sudden they say, hey, we want you to have a 96 pack. You already know that they're going to ask for that. So on your way to that engagement, you should already be doing your research on packaging. You should already be talking to your co-packer to see what packaging they're already using, who are their partners. All of that information should be a part of you getting ready to launch your case count. But be very at the same time, be very careful on how you launch. He mentioned Costco. So Costco, it may be an assorted case. So if you have an assorted case,
there you go.
How is that going to change? So it takes a lot of research, a lot of data and studying, and knowing how long that engagement and just making sure that you're plugged in.
But we're still talking about, at the end of the day, the same base products, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. That was my question. Changing the base product per.
Oh, I'm about to tell you something you're not going to like. Who cares? Right? Because I'm going to honestly tell you, even Coca-Cola, right? Coca-Cola had a little spark in it, and that was the base product.
Yeah.
But don't be so concerned with how Grandma Betty used to do it that you're never be stubborn on your product. Let the market tell you how your product is going to live, right? I do not believe when any supplier comes to me and says, well, it's the integrity of my product, then go sell it at a farmer's market. right? When you are an anchor retail, you're in the business not to make your brand popular, but to create a legacy of supply chain for your family. Do not be worried about the integrity of how you started. Be worried about how much strength and market share you have in the market. The rest will be able to come, and you can have iterations. You can go back and then afterwards say, now that I have the money and the funds in this is going to be my passion project, and it's going to live in the market exactly how I want to, right? But not even Tyson chicken sticks to something. It's all about what the market tells you and how much market share you can have. I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, you also have to be good, Mike. You also got to be your honest self, and that's what I'm going to ask you all. Thank you, sister. In defining your identity, right? You got your product, but you got to be true to yourself, and you touched on that, right?
Mm-hmm.
My question is, now that you know you, who are you becoming because of your product?
Or how you see yourself.
That's where I was going to go to. I think these two questions actually come perfectly hand in hand because of authenticity. And to answer your question of how things might change for you, kind of honestly agreeing with you, it really doesn't matter. But like approaching it from like everything is connected standpoint, if I'm just friends, right? Like I try to like take it away from business if that sometimes feels like overwhelming. So if we just think about friends, there's going to be certain friends that require certain things from us that other friends don't. And that's sometimes fine, and sometimes it crosses over a boundary, right? So I think to answer your question, if I may, a lot of it does depend on where you start and how you define your own boundaries, and then how you show up to play with other people in the market.
Very good.
Because that isn't within your control. And as a branding expert, a lot of things that I preach is that you do get to control your demographic and your customer. A lot of times when we start a business, people start to think like, oh, okay, I know I like this. Who else should I sell this to? And the thing that makes that so funny to me is that we definitely get to control who we sell things to. We can tell you this isn't for you. I can say that this is for this type of person because I sell it. And so when you have that kind of control over your product, over your community, over your market, it makes it just so much simpler to make those kinds of choices, even when the market is asking you to make slight changes like, hey, I want dairy and eggs taken out, right? Like to your points, like I think then I don't feel so taken away from my personal mission and my personal authenticity that I'm pouring in. And it allows me to really just stand on what I started with. And to your point too, Prince Jet, I don't have to worry about the traditionalism of what I started with, and I can listen based on feedback of what my community is telling me I should probably lean in towards, right? 30, 40 years ago, cigarettes was a health benefit. So like, I just really hope that didn't go over a lot of your guys' heads.
Thank you so much.
But that other piece, we had every question, but if you all, can you touch that? Go ahead, bring it right to you. If you have a question. Because as your brand scales, you have to become at that level that you, as your brand scales, you have to become at that level where your brand is.
Yeah.
Okay.
So to answer your question around who am I, right? At this juncture.
Yeah.
When I started this business, I'm gonna try to make it short. When I started this business, my son was 2 months old. My marriage was falling apart, and I started it breastfeeding while sitting on my grandmother's couch. Right?
Yeah.
I was in my phone building a website. 3 months later, took my little savings. I had also just got terminated from my job on Wall Street. Okay, free. And I was determined never to allow anyone to dictate how I fed me and my family.
Amen.
And so,
That's to her, y'all. That's real.
I appreciate that. And so when you start, I don't want to say low, but when you start in that space, and then you get a spark for an idea, and you just keep going with it, and 4 or 5 years later, you see yourself on the shelf somewhere, and you did it bootstrapping the whole way with a baby on your hip, and, you know, going through a divorce or somebody who wasn't supporting you, whatever, you start to realize there is nothing
Say it out loud.
that I can't do.
Ooh, say it again. Come on, y'all.
Right? And I think that once you have the will to do a thing, there is nothing that can stop you.
That's right.
Yes, you may have hurdles, right? Life is going to give you hurdles. You may have roadblocks, but how do you jump over them? How do you get around them? How do you break them down? I'm a big proponent of there is more than one way to skin a cat. There's no door that I can't walk through. It's just how am I going to walk through it? I may not walk through it today. It may be tomorrow. But if I know where I'm going or where I want to go, then I'm going to work backwards and do the math, path it backwards to where I'm at now and figure out how am I going to get there. So for everyone who's ambitious about anything, don't let anything get in your way. There is nothing, a baby on your hip, a broken home, whatever it is, lose your job, whatever. There's nothing that's going to stop you if you have the will to do it.
And I'm going to add this on to, you know, to that part, you know, about not letting stop you. I'm from the poorest town in America per capita called Lincoln Heights, Ohio. Right. Right. Lincoln Heights, Ohio. Right. Left school at 8 years old. Yes, did I test out? But outside of that, I didn't go to, you know, I didn't have a lot of interactions. I'm autistic and have ADHD. But yet I've worked for Fortune 20 companies. I've consulted for Fortune 20 companies. And I talk to kings and queens every week, right? Negotiating global trade deals. You can do whatever you want if you set your mind to it. But do not believe just because you set your mind to it that you know the way. There's a big difference between having goals and wanting to pursue that and believing that you don't have to listen to the advice on the way. Very thin line, right? So I just wanted to be mindful of that. But please.
Go ahead. I want you to
When I started Hiatus, I had a success before in the music industry, and me and my brothers went through that's a whole nother story. But that's really where I learned resilience in the music industry. So when I started Hiatus, it was at a point where the bell curve of my royalties were starting to come down. So I needed something supplemental. So I got in there, and at the time, you know, doing the music was the first time I came into a lot of money. So I had a different lifestyle, right? So what it would have taken for me at that very point to get to here, I was not that person. It was no way. It was so many issues that I had, and it took me some serious transparency and humility to see what I needed to change and to know what I wasn't capable of changing. Like, I'm not that much of an organized person. I had to bring people in my life that was organized. So wherever I was lacking, I needed to find the resources to put around me in order to change the person that I was so that I could become who I am still trying to be, because I'm not there yet. I think it's a word. I think it's something I'll always be working on, and I just keep that mindset. You all heard that thing, honesty, honesty, honesty. Yep. Right. So, that's how I got here. It's like I said before, you have to create the environment around you to become the person that you want to become. You have to create that.
Okay, and if I could please have your question, please. I'm looking forward to it.
This is a lot of information to take in. Can you hear me? It's a lot of information to take in.
A little louder.
For me, it's more so about, I just want to get some information or, I guess, some energy on how do we focus on the branding piece. For myself, that's better, yeah. For myself, I feel like I'm at that point where I'm constantly evolving. Like you, my story is attached to my business and to my brand because it was birthed out of grief. It was birthed out of loss. It was birthed out of trying to keep the lights on and make a way. And a lot of that ties into my product. So like you were saying, is about being able to pivot and being mindful of not really, I guess what I'm asking is, how do we keep that story connected to our product when we're on these shelves? Like, I don't want my customer just take my soup off the shelf and go home and eat it and that be that. Like, I want there to be a story connected to that and for them to understand that. And also, I want to be available in unconventional ways. I'm not just aiming to be on a product store. I want to be in schools. I want to be in hospitals. Like, I want to be in places where people who need the healing right then and right there can focus on that. Like, for somebody to come to my table and say, I need something because my throat is itching. This soup is for you.
Yeah.
So how do we keep that story connected to where it doesn't get lost in the product?
So 2 things. 1, grocery retail is not the place to worry about impact. I'm going to tell you that real hard truth. Okay? Your story and how you're doing your campaign awareness is how that lives. But you do not care who purchased that product and if they never read your label. That's none of your business as a supplier onto the grocery retail shelf, right? That's on that part. But that has nothing to do. So let's look at Ben and Jerry's, right? We're going to go there. Everyone buys Ben and Jerry's, but only conscious people understand that Ben and Jerry's is down with the cause, right? So people are buying Ben and Jerry's like crazy. They're throwing it away. They're not hitting that QR code and seeing their latest impact, right? But you have to find those other avenues where that makes sense. But never look for grocery retail for that storytelling, right? That's just on that side. But once again, that's where your campaign awareness and what external storytelling are you doing? So are you making sure that you're marketing yourself and pouring a little bit more into your marketing so that when people go into your website, right, they find out about that story? Okay, and then just have a QR code added on to your actual packaging where people can hear about that story, right? But I don't want anybody in retail to ever care about impact because that's black people's problem. I'm going to just be real with you. The difference between a white successful company and a black successful company is the gatekeeping, but also they care about the emotion. This is the market that makes and break the economy. There's no emotion in it. And when you're going for emotion, it'll take you long to grow because you'll start to say yes and no based on your feeling, right? There is no gut feeling in retail. But what there is gut feelings when you're navigating the market. So what that can look like is, okay, well, I don't care about what's on the shelf, but 10% of each sale helps be able to do this impact work with the mothers, being able to do this. So utilize the selfishness of the market, pull a margin from those sales for ways you want to impact.
So you say, get the bag, and then do the impact.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
I was
go ahead.
about to
Unpack
say,
that. Unpack that.
It's kind of who you selling to, right? It's like he said, retail, it doesn't matter, right? But the people that are involved in your cause are people that are investing, right? So maybe that sale isn't necessarily direct to customer. Maybe that sale is to an investor. Maybe that sale is some way where you can, get your brand recognition more. But again, you can't connect that to retail. That's your personal story, and the person that sells it is you. You're the person that does that,
Similarly, to what Michael was saying, I have a QR code on the back of my box. If you want to know more, you scan it. It has our story, has our website, it has a demo on it, it has a few things on it. You pick what you want, right? Most people who hear the real story about Sweet Fields, and that even though it is a little bit of, my son was born, blah, blah, blah. But the core of that story is it comes from my grandmother and her sister who were the cook and the nanny in the 1930s working for a white family. And they created a dinner roll recipe and that became a family tradition every Thanksgiving and Christmas. That I only tell that if I'm pitching or if I'm in a meeting or, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the only time I really tell, or if you go on my website and you read it. That story's not lost. It's available and it's open for those who want to read it. But don't get stuck on they have to know. If they want to know, they'll research it. Just like anything you're interested in. You see some things online, you scroll right on past it. Okay. But some things you're like, I want to know a little bit more. And it'll be available to them if they go to look for it.
Absolutely. And I want to just add real quick because I want to be conscious of time also that the later part of this part is the town hall. Is 2 parts. It was Q&A, but also talking about the 3-month buying program that's coming to the market, right? So the reason I want to really dive even into that is for people just like you, that I want you to come with this passion. I want you to care about that, but then I want you to roadmap what that looks like. So within that buying program, right, what you're going to go over is your goals, right, for the next 53 weeks. Because how long does it take, Matthew, to get into retail? About 53 weeks, okay, right, at least. So you go over your goals, the key performance indicators around your on-the-shelf goals and journey. We look at the task work involved around that. And then we go over what are the roadblocks and bottlenecks you're going to have. After we do roadblocks and bottlenecks, we look at the ecosystem partners that you need. And some of them shake their head because they've really been through this, right, on the journey with me. Then we look at the capital that is going to take with you. And then your campaign awareness, internal and external. So what you're talking about, like Matthew said, that's your internal campaign. That's how you're going to gauge your stakeholders, right? Because within that, the same way you have the story about the impact, right? I want you guys to care about your raw materials, right? To be able to say, okay, well, I'm going to be purchasing this much raw material, well, for my ingredients. So if you're using chicken broth, right? How many vegetables will you be purchasing, in total within that year? If you're going to be selling 1,000 cases a month one day, that makes you a stakeholder in multiple people's supply chain, stakeholder to multiple farmers. And that's the story that I want to know about is, okay, yes, I'm giving back to women and mothers right here, but because my brand is in the market, this local farm is growing. They're making this much income. And guess what? You can be able to do purchase orders for that farmer a season ahead. That's where the real story is when it comes to the market. But long story short, that's what Market Run is really about.
There's so much that we're unpacking. So much that we're unpacking here. Are y'all enjoying this? Come on, give this panel a round of applause. Business Wisdom is set up for us to have these intimate conversations here at Hush Harbor. And we do this monthly. He has a lot more he's going to unpack. So we're going to land this plane, but we're going to come back to give you an opportunity to really come together. Because, again, they've been doing this for a long time. The Greater Washington Urban League understands we don't want you to do this by yourself. And the whole campaign of Show Us What You Love is about us loving the best of us together. Okay?
Yeah. And this is actually something that travels. So State of Suppliers will be hitting multiple cities. You'll be able to find us in New York. You'll be able to find us in Houston, Atlanta, as well as Cincinnati. Also host a talk show on the second floor of Kroger's flagship store in Cincinnati, Ohio, called Yak Shack Live, where we dive into product and service-based development from a grocery retail lens also. But, once again, I'm the founder and chairman of Yak Shack, a global think tank. It was very important for us to be able to host this on Business Wisdom Wednesdays, right? And that is because we really do want to provide you all the raw truth. So as this continues on and as, you all follow this journey, please just remember there are no wrong questions. Never be hesitant to ask and just yak. And feel free just to think tank. There's no wrong answers. Okay? So thank you everybody for coming. And I really want to be able to thank our panelists, right? Any closing remarks from our panelists, please?
Closing remarks. Thank you guys all for coming out and showing support of this beautiful community, this beautiful event. Thank you for all of the curators of this event for putting together such a beautiful moment for us to all appreciate each other and share this knowledge. For everybody that was here, I hope you guys had a chance to take something away that was meaningful and impactful. I know that I probably speak for more than just myself when I say that we're all very much open to connecting with you guys and being of a resource to you guys if possible. My name is Michael Wilson. Thank you guys for your time.
I will say There's nothing you can't do with will. And if you're of faith, the grace of God.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't have done it on my own. I know I didn't do it on my own, and I'm not going to act like I did it on my own, because favor is real. And alignment and obedience is real, because you got to know when to move when he tells you to move, and to stop when he tells you to stop. But outside of that, feel free to find me on LinkedIn if you have any questions. Yeah. Chanel Fields. I miss Fields, but Chanel Fields on LinkedIn. And Our Sweet Fields on IG. So if you have any questions, I'm free. I'm happy to help.
Just want to say thank you for having me, and thanks for everyone coming out. What could I leave with you all? I think I just would reiterate the importance of making sure that you put yourself in places to build that networking environment. Places like this is a perfect start. And besides places like this, I would definitely advise you to find people within your own industry to make them a part of that network to help you grow. I think everybody else covered a lot more of the thank yous, but thanks for coming. I appreciate you.